The following is a presentation of IdentityTheftSecrets.com.
This is Jonathan Kraft with Identity Theft Secrets, and I am here today with John Gable, who is from the consumer division of CheckPoint Software, and wanted to talk with him a little bit today about ZoneAlarm, as well as some of the software that CheckPoint has to help people protect their computers. So, John, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, can you tell me a little bit about the history of CheckPoint? I mean, how did CheckPoint, I know there was a company called Zone Labs, and they merged, or there was a purchase or an acquisition or something along those lines. Can you tell me a little bit about that history, and then what led to the creation of ZoneAlarm?
Yeah, it is interesting because you had two different companies with similar histories in a way. So CheckPoint Software really began with the fantastic firewall, really focused more on enterprises, and became the #1 firewall in the world, the Fortune 100, Fortune 500. All 100% of Fortune 100 are using CheckPoint products today. And they're actually based in Israel. Along the same line, Zone Labs, which is the name of this different company that started in San Francisco, we created the #1 personal firewall, the firewall that you would put on your personal PC, that software. And that's actually our first product that we really succeeded, it really hit the market, was simply called ZoneAlarm. And that was the name for our free firewall that's on, millions and millions of computers today. And what was interesting is they both had the same kind of philosophy of keeping bad things off of your computer. And we have other kinds of security that remove bad things from your computer or from your network. But we both had that same philosophy. So the companies merged. CheckPoint actually acquired Zone Labs. And since our ZoneAlarm product and our ZoneAlarm line of products is so well known, we've kind of given up on the Zone Labs name. We're CheckPoint, and we have ZoneAlarm products that are specifically for consumers. And we have a great advantage of being able to take that kind of philosophy of keeping your machine clean forward, as well as taking advantage of some of the great technologies we get from CheckPoint and some technologies we continue to develop here in San Francisco and elsewhere.
So then there's a lot of companies actually operating in this space. How do you see ZoneAlarm kind of fitting into the current stage as far as being a player in the antivirus, firewall, computer protection software space?
Well, we've always been the premium version, if you will. Starting with that prevention philosophy, you'll find in review after review, independent test after independent test, that we're the best at just keeping anything bad from getting on your computer in the first place. That's kind of our old firewall philosophy that we take forward. But look at our Internet Security Suite. We've kind of taken the kind of best of breed philosophy at every level. So some security, to give you an idea, a lot of security companies have this philosophy that what you want to do is scan the hard drive, compare it to a list, scan and scan and scan, find something that's bad, and try to delete it, hopefully without causing too much damage. Now, you need that security protection in case anything does get through your layers of protection. But by itself, that's like saying, hey, would you prefer to, if you get sick, is your answer get a great doctor, or would you prefer not to get sick in the first place? And what we do is we try to do both. We try to prevent you from getting sick in the first place by having this great prevention technology. And then if you do somehow get sick, if there's some new threat that manages to sneak in somehow, we have the best technology for scanning and removing those viruses and spyware from your machine. And what we've done with that kind of high focus on those things is we're the only company that's been either the top 1 or top 2 recommended suite from every major publication. Nobody else can say that. We've actually won #1 awards from every major U.S. publication. Nobody else can say that. So we're the great technology, but we're not as well known because we're not as strong of a marketing company. But we're learning how to do that.
I really like the analogy with the castle. I think that that's a very good analogy for how people should set up their security around themselves as far as their personal information and around their computers. I think that's a great analogy. If anybody's, I just got back from Europe, so I saw all these castles where they've got these layers. They build an inner wall and then an outer wall, and then they build the moat, and then they build a wall around the moat, and then, and it's pretty amazing all the things they did to protect themselves. And I think that that kind of philosophy really is a very appropriate analogy for what people need to do to protect their information. So thank you very much for that. Do you have, I think that really kind of covers the questions I wanted to ask you about ZoneAlarm, as well as CheckPoint products. And do you have kind of anything else today that you wanted to share with people before we wrap it up?
I'd love to hear your excitement over the castle analogy, because I love that analogy too. I just think it's great. And I remember spending about an hour looking at a very complex model of a castle in Edinburgh and being fascinated about how every single layer of how they try to prevent you. And what's interesting is that the game of security, philosophically, hasn't changed. The technologies have changed, and the way people attack has changed. But the basic philosophy of how you stay safe in an unsafe world stays the same, where you keep the bad guys out and you offer multiple layers of protection to really defend against even the most vicious, most aggressive, most recent and modern attacks.
Well, I want to thank you for taking a couple minutes with us today on Identity Theft Secrets, and we'll obviously stay in touch with you as CheckPoint comes out with new products and new services that you're offering. Would love to have you back and interview you again to talk about some of those things. And obviously the space is changing rapidly, so as you guys are keeping up with that, would love to be able to benefit from your knowledge in that arena.
Well, that's great. This has been fun, Jonathan. Thank you very much.
This has been an audio interview with IdentityTheftSecrets.com. We can be found online at www.IdentityTheftSecrets.com. IdentityTheftSecrets.com.